Seeing the price of crude drop like a brick in water is very interesting, especially when you compare it to the recent jump. I mean, literally the last 2 days, 3 days jump in the GDP on the 10-year Treasury yield. The Treasury is jumping inherently means that the price is falling, all right, which means that there's less demand for Treasuries. Does that mean foreigners are selling their bonds? I don't know. Presumably, probably. I don't know. Does that mean people are selling their bonds like crazy? I don't think so. I think it's a short-term thing, but whatever. But usually it don't work to this extent. In terms of the bond market crashing would indicate people are worried about inflation. I don't want bonds because I expect inflation to come, because bonds are fixed income. Fixed income is bad in an inflationary economy. That's all there is to it. So I'm not going to buy a long bond, a 30-year Treasury, for instance, at 4.5, if I expect inflation will eat away perpetually my interest, which I still have to pay tax on. You actually should go back and look at the tax code in the 1970s and how the inflation was putting people in a higher tax bracket just because there was inflation. The tax brackets were not indexed for inflation, and that wasn't good. So basically, you were your taxable income, even though you weren't making any more money net, you're going into a higher and higher tax bracket simply because inflation was putting you into a higher tax bracket. It's not good, man. And the same thing happens here, is that your income is being taxed at a higher and higher amount on a fixed income perspective. And that's not good, because inflation is literally I got to use that figuratively, eating away at your income. Not a good thing. And inflation is a tax. I mean, I don't deny that. I just think the whole idea that inflation is going to be perpetual for the rest of our lives, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, the way to reduce your own personal inflation is what? Well, we know for a fact that the biggest amount of CPI inflation is on housing costs. Number 2 is transportation costs. So if you're not renting a home and exchanging your rent every year in terms of the increasing price of rent, the rental costs of inflation aren't affecting you, just not. If you're not renting your home to yourself, OER, owner equivalent rent, it's not effective. If you're not buying and selling a new used vehicle, transportation isn't affecting you on an annual basis. It's just not. I mean, obviously the price of gas, that's what leads me to interesting about the price of crude. Crude is dropping like a brick in water. Now, one of the reasons is because of supply. I was reading yesterday, the day before, the OPEC countries, or some countries out there, are going to massively expand their production, which is pretty interesting, because when they massively expand their production, that means the price is dropping. Anytime supply increases significantly, especially if demand hasn't increased with it, that's going to be a drop in price. But it's interesting, not only is supply increasing, but you think, because we're worried about a recession, that the demand would be dropping as well, which would be also decreasing the price. All right, so that's very interesting to me. So it seems to be competing. Recessionary stuff, bonds in a recession or a deflation potential are very attractive if we're worried about recession, all right? Because bonds are fixed income, and a recession, again, is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Depression, I don't even know what the definition of a depression is, but depression, if we have deflation, a la 1930, a la 1890, a la 1819 and stuff, bonds are the freaking cat's meow, depressions. So bonds work really well in recessions and certainly in depressions. And yet we're seeing the prices of bonds drop, even though crude is going down as well. It's just a conflict. I don't know what to make of it, because no one knows. This is where the things, these fools, they cannot make up their mind. Is tariffs inflationary or deflationary? They can't make up their mind, because if tariffs were inflationary, you would think, that you see a significant spike in crude. All right, because crude usually coincides with inflation. And you would see, if tariffs were inherently inflationary, then there would not have been a massive drop in the yields, i.e. the price of 10-year bonds would not have dropped to begin with under the Trump's tariff thing. And yet that didn't happen. All right, so it's just weird. It's an interesting dynamic. And then if tariffs are inherently deflationary, causing recessions and whatnot, you would inherently see what? A drop in the yields, which we saw initially, and then a price increase in bonds. And it's all over the place. No one knows anything, man. And I just don't get why people can't just admit no one knows anything. Again, the four biggest tariffs of the modern era, if you will, since the industrialization of society, was the McKinley Tariff of 1890. All right, we were already in a depression when that happened. Did that exacerbate the depression? We'll even say sure. The Dingley Tariff of 1897. All right, did we have a depression there? No, we went out. Did the Dingley Tariff of 1897 help the expansion, the growth? Yeah, I think you have to say yes, without question. So no depression for the Dingley Tariff, depression for the McKinley Tariff. We had the Fordney Tariff in 1922. All right, that was right after a pretty significant recession / depression for the post-World War I. Did that exacerbate a depression and recession? No, we had roaring 20s, pretty significant growth at that point. Did the Fordney Tariff help that? I think you'd have to say probably. It certainly didn't hurt. Then we had Smoot-Hawley in 1930. We're already in the midst of a Great Depression. Did Smoot-Hawley help or hinder that the growth? It probably hurt it. Hurt the growth for sure. But we're 2 for 4 in terms of what a tariff does, inflationary or deflationary. And you had all these people out there like, oh, tariffs are always inflationary. Oh, no, tariffs are always deflationary. They can't get their stories right. And that's what's so frustrating, man. Which is why you don't pay attention to these guys, because no one knows. No one knows. So you just sit tight and you got your 4 years cash. I'm actually trying to put some money into stocks today, but my money was in a money market at Schwab, so actually it's a security. So I actually had to sell, which doesn't clear, I think it's T+1 on money market, so I got to wait to buy tomorrow. So hopefully the market will fall again today so I can put some money to work tomorrow. Because anytime you're getting about 25% decline, that's a pretty good buying opportunity in my opinion. All right, God bless. We'll see you.